Let me tell you what happened to a former CIA director who really believed we were long past due for the truth. The truth. This is the subtitle of the conference here. And so, through a lot of work, our group had been able to reach a lot of officials within this majestic entity. And one of them was a former CIA director named Bill Colby. And Bill Colby was getting up there in years. He was old. And he was a member of this group. He had concluded it was time to help us. So he agreed to a colonel who was his best friend, communicated to my team and said, look, we want to meet with you, and we want to hand off one of these devices, fully operational, and about $50 million in seed funding so you can get it stabilized and secure and out initially to the public. I said, good. The week that he was going to meet with us, they found Mr. Colby floating down the Potomac River, and he had been murdered. Yes, absolutely. His wife admitted as much to CNN. Now, nobody knew why this sudden taking out of a former CIA director, and it was never investigated as a murder. It was an accidental drowning. But it was a shot across the bow to others who would like to bring and defect from this group. And it scared a lot of them, including then President Clinton. I mean, he wasn't very brave, but he wasn't stupid either. I would prefer to be with someone who is intelligent and has courage, however. So after this happened, and we began to analyze what the dynamic of this was, it became very clear that we were going to have to do some more groundwork for this bringing out of not only the information, but the actual technologies that can give us a new civilization, a new Earth, a new planetary society here. But I want to be clear on something. A lot of people think that these technologies have all come from the studying of UFOs that have been shot down or something. This is not true. There has been reverse engineering and study of these sort of technologies, and I know men and women who have worked in those programs. But remember, the laws of the universe have a very nice coincidence. They're universal. And so if they can be developed in Alpha Centauri, or the Pleiades, or anywhere, any galaxy, they can be developed here. And guess what? Through the minds of people, beginning in the late 1800s, this knowledge started coming through. Nikola Tesla, for example. T. Townsend Brown, who started doing in the 1920s anti-gravity, high voltage electromagnetic effects where things would levitate and lift. He then developed this with a professor at Princeton who worked with Einstein, Dr. Biefeld, and it was called the Biefeld-Brown effect. So these things were done independent of any extraterrestrial study of craft. However, when we did finally, tragically, shoot a few of these down, starting back with Roswell and perhaps earlier, using electromagnetic weapon systems, we did study it, and that augmented, that propelled and further provided an augmentation to some science that was already being studied. See, so it's more complex than most people have been presented. I'm trying to give you this background so you understand. Now, eventually, by 1954, and I can give you the month, October 1954, it was decided that all of these technologies, which had begun to be reported openly in the aerospace journals, you can go back to the late 40s and early 50s and read about them, absolutely. They're there. You can find them. But by October 1954, this secret government, this cabal that had hijacked this whole issue out from underneath the president, out from underneath other world governments, and became an entity unto itself, decided, we're slamming the lid on this, and this is not going to be printed, talked about, discussed, anywhere, top secret, black, deep black. That was October 1954. So I was not yet a twinkle in my father's eye. when all of this went black. But I tell people that the tragedy here is that since before I was born, and now I'm a grandfather, we have not needed oil, gas, coal, or jet engines, rockets, or surface roads between cities. Think how many billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars are spent on roadways and how much destruction to the environment. We haven't needed those since Eisenhower launched the Eisenhower interstate system in America that's now crisscrossed with these superhighways spanning the whole continent. Now imagine what a civilization from another star system might think, seeing such galactic stupidity. Oy. Ultimately, that is the problem we're trying to correct. It is 50, 60 years of unbelievable corruption and misguided policy that has become entrenched. But doing so now is much more difficult than it would have been in 1902. And if you go to the orionproject.org, it's all one word, the Orion Project, O-R-I-O-N, Orion, like the constellation, project.org, you will see a photograph of Nikola Tesla with a guy, a self-taught engineer named Stubblefield, standing with the Capitol dome of the United States Capitol behind them after they had shown members of Congress this generator that was like an earth battery, some stakes in the ground, and they would get it running, and it would run itself from this energy field, and the man was running his farm on it. 1902. So let me go back. We haven't needed oil and gas, nuclear power didn't exist then, since 1902. Now, you talk about a crime against humanity and the earth. This is the big one, a huge one. And it's all about corruption of power. And it's time for the people, all of us, to stand up and say, okay, enough of this stupidity. We're better and wiser than this. Let's unite together and bring out these new sciences. Now, if it were easy, it would have been done in 1902. Nikola Tesla had his technologies suppressed. Westinghouse, J.P. Morgan, the Rockefeller family, they did not want this to be known because it would upset their apple cart in 1902, just like the apple cart would be upset in 2009. But you know what? In 1902, the world had less than 2 billion people. Only a fraction of them had electricity and were using oil and gas. Now we have 7 billion people, and we have 1 billion motor vehicles on the road. So we have become more addicted and more addicted and more addicted and more addicted into this paradigm of a planet-killing system. And that is what we must go past and beyond and leave that behind. Whatever people will say, oh, it would be too disruptive to the economy. What will happen to the petrodollar? How about unemployment in the energy sector? Well, there'll be new jobs. It's like saying we shouldn't bring out a car because people making horse carriages for horses would be out of business. This is ridiculous. That excuse has been used as a false paradigm so that people will stay in line with the power elite that have the power they have. And so we have to say to our leaders and to each other, let's find a way to come together. Those who are engineers and scientists, those of us who are leaders in the new energy movement, the public who are concerned about the environment and energy, and those who have the resources financially to do this. Not any one person, certainly not me, can do all this. Because any time one of these technologies surfaces, and there have been many, such as the Stan Meyer car that was running on water, and then he died suddenly, and his work had a national security order slapped on it before he died. And now it's sitting in a warehouse somewhere with a family who really doesn't know what to do with it, and it's a very complicated situation. We've been trying to get them to help let us bring this back out, but it's very difficult, and that may not happen. But the same technology can be done by this gentleman, perhaps, or this gentleman, or this woman. Why not?